Hi, thanks for clicking on this video. Today I'd like to share just a little bit of the personal journey that God has had me on, and a concern that I have as I've listened to and read a lot of opinions and a lot of things being shared. There's a lot of things going on in this world that we don't completely understand. The COVID crisis, the political situation, all of the race troubles and riots and the financial repercussions of it all. And more I've become troubled and a little disturbed, and each post and each new thing that I see being produced could serve to just make me feel a little more agitated. And so today I just like to personally say that I've been disappointed in my own response and recognize that something has really been lacking from me personally. And I've noticed it with other things as well. There's a lot of opinions and a lot of thoughts being shared that aren't necessarily wrong, but coming from a Christian perspective, things that just seem to be lacking. And today, what I sense that we need more than anything is the power of God and the presence of God in what we say and what we write. And I'm reading through Isaiah right now, and I was so blessed reading about how Isaiah was called, how he was given this mandate to speak to the people, and it was written down, and it's profiting people now thousands of years later. And so for you brothers and sisters who want to make a difference, and I would just say this: God bless you, each one who is working, who is seeking to make a difference. I don't want to be condemning or harshly judgmental of other people, because like I said, I recognize this own weakness in my and sin even in my own life. But I'd like to share with you a few things from Isaiah chapter 6 that we should consider as we attempt to engage with the culture around us. And before I start, I'd also say this, along with thanking you, those of you who are being involved and who are not just relaxing. God is very intentional in relating with us. If there's one thing that I've noticed about reading through Isaiah, it is that God is not passive. God longs for justice. In fact, he demands justice. And as followers of Christ, we dare not become passive, but honestly, when we start feeling discouraged and we start wondering what can be done, it's very, very easy and very natural to just kind of sit back and watch things happen, because we don't know how to relate or how to respond. But there's some things that if we will do faithfully, we are promised that God will work through us. And I could say that because it's not my own idea, but it's the Word of God. In Isaiah chapter 6, this is where Isaiah was started writing his blog posts or making his YouTube videos or whatever you want to say, where he started speaking to the people. This is the background of Isaiah's life. He says, Isaiah chapter 6, in the year that King Uzziah died, I saw the Lord sitting on a throne, high and lifted up, and the train of his robe filled the temple. Above it stood seraphim. Each one had 6 wings. With 2 he covered his face, with 2 he covered his feet, and with 2 he flew. And one cried to another and said, Holy, holy, Holy is the Lord of hosts. The whole earth is full of his glory. And the posts of the door were shaken by the voice of him who cried out, and the house was filled with smoke. Talk about a life-changing experience. Brothers and sisters, today, if we will experience the power and the presence of God in our lives, we desperately need to see the Lord in his holiness and in his glory. We desperately need to fall on our knees before him and experience the posts of our life, of our situation, of our world being shaken by the glory and the holiness of God. This is something we need to be living with, this sense, this power, 24/7. And this is something that we need to be experiencing on a day-to-day basis in our alone time with God, falling on our knees, recognizing in our mind and in our heart the holiness and the glory of God. Then what happened next? So I said, "Woe is me, for I am undone, because I am a man of unclean lips. And I dwell in the midst of a people of unclean lips. For my eyes have seen the King, the Lord of hosts." When we see the Lord in his holiness and in his glory, we see reflected in that our own undoneness, our own brokenness, and our need for him. Brothers and sisters, before we would endeavor to start sharing our voice and our opinion, we must see the glory and the holiness of God. We must be broken before him and cry out to him with Isaiah, "Woe is me, I am undone." When is the last time that you have been genuinely undone before the Lord? This is essential. And after our undoneness, this is what happens. Then one of the seraphim flew to me, having in his hand a live coal, which he had taken from the tongs with the tongs from the altar. And he touched my mouth with it and said, "Behold, this has touched your lips. Your iniquity is taken away, and your sin is purged." After we see the glory and holiness of God, which leads us to our own rightful realization of our undoneness before God, and God touches us with his power, takes away our sin, forgives us. And after this comes what so many of us want to do first. "Also I heard the voice of the Lord saying, 'Whom shall I send, and who will go for us?' Have you heard that cry?" This is what Isaiah said. "Here I am, send me." Oh, how many of us need to say this to the Lord, but only after we see his holiness and his glory, only after we are undone before him, and only after the Lord has touched us. And I would like to emphasize again that this is not just a one-time experience, but this needs to be a daily reality. This needs to be something that is so over us and so in us that it influences every thought, every action, every word. Brothers and sisters, I'd like to ask you to commit yourself to not going out and interacting with the world until you've been here, until you have cried out to the Lord, until you have experienced this, until you have been in the Word so much that you see his holiness and his glory. If we go out, if we have some good ideas and some wisdom or some knowledge that we'd like to share, we share it without these things being a reality in our life, it will be just more confusion, more turmoil, more noise. So brothers and sisters, I pray that the God of hope would be with you, would strengthen you, let us commit ourselves to seeking and to knowing Him, His power and His presence, to engage this world and to love well. God bless you today.